everybody. Ancient Indian literature, about which I am about to talk today, is the philosophy of a culture which was composed by great sages in order to talk about certain truth of generations, which will come true for every generation across culture, across geography. And this is the philosophy of a culture. It was not meant to be commercial fiction. Every character, every event, every celebration, every pain in Indian philosophical literature is talking about a deeper, meaningful truth, knowing which actually ushers us more towards the purpose of our life, and we can make more productive, meaningful decisions towards what we are meant for. There is only one rule, as suggested by ancient Indian literature. There is only one rule that binds the living world, and that rule is, when one falls, the others take over. Now, we the humans turned out to be very clever and oversmart. We violated the rule. We prioritized the luxury of self over the sufferings of others, and this became the root cause of all unhappiness, all sufferings. Mainly because nobody can exist and be happy alone. Ancient Indian literature introduces us to a series of characters who are constantly seeking help, and they're trying to solve big problems with or for each other. And I will give you two examples in this context. The first is that of Ramayana. In fact, both the examples are from Ramayana. The Ramayana specifically shows productive collaborations between various life forms for a fruitful and beautiful and meaningful cohabitation. My first example is that when Ravan was abducting Sita, Jatayu came to stand by Sita and support Sita. Jatayu was a bird. Didn't Jatayu know that he was about to face the mighty Ravan and he would be killed? Of course he did. But for Jatayu at that moment, it was more important to stand by and support Sita and show up for her. It was more important for him to do that over safeguarding his own life interest. This particular story just brings us to the moral that when someone is suffering, we have to show up. We have to be there. In whatever limited capacity, we have to be there for that person instead of maintaining a mechanical distance. It is our responsibility to feel and do the needful, whatever be our capacity. Now, this story of Jatayu also talks to us about a short-term setback which might happen when you are trying to do something right against all the forces that are available. And it also talks about the long-term gain. Jatayu was killed by Ravan, which is of course the short-term setback, but Jatayu became immortal in the minds of the audience, which is reflected by Jatayu's, which is talking about the long-term gain in the story. The second example is that of Ram going to fight with Ravan in Lanka, and he is accompanied by an army of monkeys. Beautifully, this sole incident talks about human-animal friendship and prioritizes that over human-animal politics. Now, social interpretation, and literature is always subject to interpretation, social interpretation has given a gendered spin to this story. We have said that the epics, especially the Ramayana, is talking about Sita needs Ram to come and rescue her, which means a woman needs a man to help her when she is in trouble. But the epic did not try to do that. The epic is saying something very simple. Ram needed an army. Ram came with an army to fight Ravan. Ravan fought back with an army. Why would Sita fight alone? Sita was also waiting for an army, and she preferably wanted Ram to be an important aspect of that army because Ram was the husband. This story also highlights that nobody can achieve anything by fighting alone. When you are trying to do anything alone, you face an isolation. you are making your world smaller. Right now, because of many kinds of experiences that we have, it could be interference, it could be pressure, it could be intimidation, it could be discrimination, whatever be it, we are trying to constantly close our doors to more and more people. We are increasingly getting into this cancel culture and closing our doors and making up small nuclear ecosystems where we function by ourselves. The ancient Indian epics are totally denouncing that and telling us that it is more important to be interdependent than independent. Because when you look for independence, when you look for self-sufficiency, you are going into that isolated zone, you are going lonely, lonely, being isolated, leads into a lot of mental health problems. It is only a small myopic solution to a large problem which we are unwilling to see. It leads to unhappiness. Interdependence, on the other hand, is very interesting. It is not something that you can quickly get into. It will take time. You will have to give it your patience, your time. You will have to understand it very well. Interdependence has two conditions. The first condition is that no entitlement. And the second condition is no power play. When I say no entitlement, it means everything that is there belongs to everybody. Different kinds of strengths and showing up to cover different kinds of weaknesses have given rise to something, and the fruits of which are not to be borne by a single group or individual. Everything belongs to everybody. Now, we have seen over a long period of time that there was a particular time frame when men were working outside and women were at home looking after the home. And men felt very entitled. They said that they are the bread earners, and so they started being abusive and cruel towards the girl, saying that the woman is not doing anything sitting at home. The society came up with a solution. They did not say anything to the man. They told the woman that you need financial independence. Go and get your financial independence. They did not tell the man that share the load. So what happens? The woman now has to do the work at home and also go out for her financial independence, and she has taken up a lot of pressure on herself, which has disbalanced her life. The man is now having to deal with the fact that the wife is not available for everything for him, and he is also disbalanced, and he has not been taught how to do the household chores. So there is a disbalance as well. There is disbalance in the family as a whole. We had forgotten to say a very simple thing to both of them, that whatever is in the house is on the house. We had isolatedly handled the two sections, trying to form a myopic solution. Had we said that whatever is in the house is on the house, it would have meant that the man is not the bread earner, the man is the money earner. The woman is the bread maker, and together they make the bread earner. That is what happens when there is interdependence. The second condition of interdependence is lack of power, no power play. We have really misunderstood this word called power. We think intimidating or proving ourselves superior in a space where everybody is afraid of the consequences should they disobey us. That is the definition of power. Ancient Indian literature introduces many occasions where they show that power is not one's ability to intimidate. Rather, the kind of power that intimidates makes for the villains in ancient Indian literature. The heroes have the kind of power that talks about kindness, that talks about giving, that talks about forgiving. If you look at Arjuna in the Mahabharata, Arjuna is said to be very powerful. And we thought that Arjuna is said to be very powerful because he is a great archer and he has tremendous focus. Now his archery, his focus were his skills, they were his talents, they were not power. Arjuna's power was standing apart at a very crucial juncture of war and asking his inner wisdom, his antaratma represented by Krishna, that I know I will win this war, but why should I fight? Now imagine all of us asking ourselves this simple question. I know I may win, but why should I fight? A lot of stupid wars We will probably discard right there because we will realize that it doesn't make sense. A lot of ego-driven, complex situations will just swim away because we will not give it that much importance. I and you together can make these decisions in order to eliminate trauma to as much as much as we can. It only helps us build a better world for ourselves. Have any of us ever observed that when we are during our regular prayers, we never ask for happiness? Though we all agree that happiness is what we are looking for, we never ask for happiness during our regular prayers. What do we ask for? We ask for things. A good house, a great car, marrying a person of our choice, promotions, better grades, so many things. We believe that those things will lead to happiness, but who knows the future? Our dream car might get us into an unfortunate accident. The person that we get married to, who was supposed to be our real dream, the person of our choice, we may not be able to sustain a long-term partnership with that person. We don't know the future. We can't control anything. What we can control is to make sure and filter our choices, our thoughts, our actions, our activities through the one simple question that I know I can do it, but should I? I know I can be cruel, but should I? I know I can interfere unfairly, should I? I know I can betray, I know I can cheat, I know I can be really nasty, but should I? We will probably end up taking better decisions for ourselves and save the world from a lot of trauma. Trauma results from so many things, and all these trauma, one person gives into some kind of trauma, they have received some kind of trauma, and they are giving away some kind of trauma, and everybody in the ecosystem is traumatized. Let me bring your attention to the story of Pandu, who was the father of the Pandavas and king of Hastinapur. Do we remember how Pandu was born? Pandu's mother, Hastinapur did not have an heir, and Hastinapur was kingless. And so Pandu's mother, Queen Ambika, Queen Ambika was to be impregnated by sage Vyasa because her husband was no more. And this was a process called Niyoga. The philosophy of Niyoga is the story for another day, but Ambika was to be impregnated by Vyasa, and Ambika did not want it. Pandu is said to be a very pale-looking person. It is said that the mother was not interested. She was very scared when she saw Vyasa, and she grew pale out of fear. And the child born was pale. What was Pandu's paleness? Just think of it. Any sensitive child who knows and is growing up knowing the condition in which he was born, that his mother was not interested, the mother grew pale, the mother did not want to engage physically with that sage whom she didn't know, but she was forced, and he was born. It will shake the ground of that person. And that is the reason why Pandu was pale, not only in his looks but also in terms of his personality. Now time repeats, history repeats itself, time turns. What happens is, there is a time when Pandu has grown, he has 2 wives, and he has been cursed by a sage that if he engages physically with any woman, he would die. Now Pandu knows that if he cannot produce an heir during his lifetime, the thing that happened with his mother will repeat with his wives. He leaves his crown, he leaves his throne, and goes to the forest with his 2 wives. In the forest, his elder wife, Kunti, tells him that she has a gift, she has a boon, by which she can call upon gods of her choice, and children can be born. And Pandu says, let's go for it. 2 queens, 1 king, 5 children born through the devas. You see, the birth condition of Pandu and his children were exactly the same, only the outcome was different. Pandu's children, when they were born, unlike Pandu's biological father who did the act and left the palace, Pandu owns up his children, gives the name Pandavas. And we know that Pandavas are the heroes of Mahabharata. They were great personalities with amazing skills and known for eras. Happy parents give rise to happy children. We are talking about it today. Indian epics had said this long ago. We all get subjected to different kinds of trauma, which comes through indifference, which comes through domination, which comes through interference. There are so many things, pressure, harassment. There are many kinds of trauma that each of us face throughout our lives. What we become on the face of trauma, what are the choices we make, how do we conduct ourselves, is still in our control. Our trauma will result in a lot of bitterness, but our bitterness should not become someone else's trauma. This realization, this healing, leads to happiness. I rest my case. Thank you so much.